Hello everyone. So here we are, we're gonna do our philosophy study today, and I would like to start to do this series of videos talking about Plato. Who was Plato? Where did he live? And a little bit more about his book, and especially not his book, especially about his dialogue of the allegory of the cave, which probably a lot of you knows. If you don't remember the whole thing, we're gonna recap. That's my case because I studied this many years ago in a law university, in sociology, and it was I remember to be a very impressed and interesting subject, but that I had to dig a little bit to recap, so I hope you can recap as well. But I think it's a lovely thing for we start to talk about in this group, because this will be like opening the doors, or maybe opening our minds to how much philosophy, science, neuroscience, sociology, in general, knowledge help us to make better choices in the world that we live today. How this can help us to filter information. We lived in a world that we have so much. We never ever in the whole human history had so much access to information as we have now in this world. But at the same time, we were never as lost, and we were never as ignorant in a way that when you think about how to filter that information, because that's what happened with choices. You would see that if you have I imagine it's a project management helping you to organize the menu of a restaurant. First thing they would say is, if the menu is too long and has got so many choices, that make people more confused about what to choose, and they also prefer something which you would have less choices. If you give 2 is good, if you give 3 maybe, if you give 4 is a little bit too much, and you put people in a position of, oh, I don't know what to go for. And so you see that what I'm talking about. I'm already going through the neuroscience ways, how things in this world can play in our minds, or how our minds operated in a way. So as you can see, is everything connected. We live in a world, in a holistic world, and at the same time in a very a world that operates in a very, the situations in this world operate in a very holographic way, a holistic way, operate in a holographic way, and a world which folds and unfolds on its own, because at least that's my personal feeling when it comes for experiences. So as you can see, yeah, I can go from one subject to another. Another thing is hard sometimes to keep the focus, but I'm gonna try to always come back from what's the point. We're here today to talk about Plato. Okay, so Plato, Aristocles, no, Aristoteles, Aristocles, that was his real name. His nickname was Plato. He was living in Greece in between the century 4th, 5th before Christ. In Greece in that time was a democracy, and it was a very different kind of democracy that operates in that society. They had elite people, And the philosophers, they participate on that. They were the one of the famous people in there. So they were normally you had men's, the military, and you had men's children, and women wasn't really considered. That's why we don't heard a lot about women or anything. Yeah, we didn't have a play in that time. Our play came in actually very, very recently, isn't it? Even in a country as the UK, we were considered object until very, very early, recently century. Anyway, not about that I'm talking about. Let's go back to Plato. So Plato was the main disciple of Socrates. Okay, Socrates, one of the most famous, one of the biggest minds we know in this world, and I just know that I know nothing. I don't know anything. I don't know how would be really, really play in English. Sometimes the circuits cross because I was educated in a Portuguese language. But I will, yeah, if it is anything, please do leave your comment below and help me, because I do like to learn. I have an interest, and I'm humble enough to accept it. And that's how I've learned the most in English language, really asking people to help me, to correct me. Yeah, and I just hope I can get to transfer the idea to you today. So basically, yes, he was the main. You will find that in many of his dialogues, because this is the way, the extritude that he used to write his books was in dialogues, or I mean by their conversations. He will teach in the books by conversation. So two persons, normally one master and one disciple, and they will have that conversation. That was the way that he liked to transfer the channel that he found to transfer his informations to us in his books. He has this very one of his most famous books called The Republic. And there you can clearly see that in many of the dialogues in the Republic, he's having conversation with Socrates, which just prove that we know more about Socrates reading Plato than we know about Socrates itself, because there is not that much wrote about, because he was more of a speech in the public places. So we had those people who were considered, those men who were considered a very important men, and that what happened to Socrates. Socrates became really important, although he was from a simple family. His dad was a builder. His mother used to do laundries for other people. And even though he was a very big mind in that time, because the biggest mind was the people who could, when they were doing that speech in a public area, the ones who had the best rhetoric, the best orator, the ones who had more flexibility and could manage in the word and transfer information for the others. It wasn't free. You participate on those challenges and disputes and learn and listen from somebody else in a public areas. You actually had to buy a ticket to participate. That was how elite people spend their time. Or people, even though simple people could get if they were good enough. So that was how fortunate Socrates was, and fortunate Plato was as well, because he was one of his main disciples. So in the Republic, when Plato wrote the Republic, there is a book which focuses in justice. The main idea of the book is discuss how can we build a society which could operate fairly, where the people, the system, could operate focus in justice and offer that to their public. So it's an amazing book. And the book number 7 on the Republic is the allegory of the cave. So the allegory of the cave, or some would say the myth of the cave, tell us about a story. The story go a little bit like, we don't know, I'm saying story because we don't know if that place really exists or if it was just an idea that he put in the book and he played just to transfer the information that he wanted to transfer, because this allegory is full of symbolism, and you'll notice this, and we're gonna dig into this information. So allegory of cave. So you imagine there was a cave, and at the end of the cave there was a little bit distance of the end. So you've got the end here, the last wall of the cave. You couldn't go farther than there. And then you had a little wall in here. Behind the wall, this side, you had prisoners. And those prisoners, they were facing that wall, the end of the cave, the last wall of the cave. And they had their backs in those little, in that little wall, which was separating them to the other side, let's say. And they would sit there, all in a chain. The only place that they could really look was to that wall. The other side, you had like a little pathway, something like that, where people would pass going and coming back every single day. And they would have instruments, and that little wall, because they were small people, that little wall will cover their heads. But an instrument, the things that they will be holding, they had shapes. So those shapes, they would reflect onto the walls that the prisoners was looking all day long and night long. And the other side, what was allowed this shape was a fire, that there was a fire, and that fire is what was allowed to reflect this, the people pass with the two. So for these prisoners, those shapes, they were moving, just like a TV. They were constantly moving and changing. And because of they were there for who knows how long, that what he's trying to say, remember, is a symbolism. What he's trying to say is that was the bottom of the cave, the darkest place of the cave, to symbolize that it was where ignorance live. And ignorance is showing to those prisoners in a chain their reality. Okay? And that reality, who was determining that reality? The people who were passing, moving up and down with their shape. They were shape the shadows, the reality for those people which were prisoners in a chain. And the fire, the other side, is symbolized light. The fire is burning and symbolizes light. So we are talking about a myth which is building up, which is playing with the perception of the world. How do you perceive the world? And what are the mechanisms who are influencing the way that you perceive, and which kind of people and tools that are determinant for this kind of perception, for your perception of the world. So these are symbolism. And in one side, after that fire, you had the door, the entrance of the cave. So when you have the entrance of the cave don't have a door. So you've got a daylight coming. So you've got the daylight, you've got the firelight, which was a fire, build something which was built by human being. And you've got the daylight, the real light, the reality. Okay? So the reality, the lights coming from the open door. And trying, but as down, as much more down the cave you are more in darkness, you are in ignorance, and you are perceiving the world in agreement of where you are. That's a very brain exercise already, isn't it? It's really, really interesting. But I'm gonna go back to my books just so I don't miss anything else, and then I make better for you. So so the cave represents the superficial reality and ignorance. So the key lessons here is to question every assumption you would have about reality, or every assumption you have, what you call real, is already a way to return to ourselves and ask, what do you call real? Because what you call real, nothing is no more than your perception of reality. Your perception of reality, though, has always been built and influenced by other people, by the environment where you are, and by the people around you, by what you consume as a human being. Because you will notice that those people passing around behind the wall, we can see in each time that the society transforming different things, you see that those people, they are the influencers. So you could say until 1 decade ago that the biggest influences maybe still be are the TV channels and programs, those kind of things. And in the past, used to be like new readers, the people, the radios in the time, isn't it, the Second World War, for example, when they first create the radios, and the radio will tell people what to do, like in Germany in the wartime, isn't it? You had to stop whatever you're doing and listen to those speeches from Goebbels and Hitler and whatever. Anyway, so this is what the allegory of the cave is trying to explain, to show, and to teach about you, about your reality. One of the things. Now, to make it even easy, because I have got that picture in my mind, but if you have the picture in your mind, it will make much easier for you to understand what I'm talking about. Those prisoners sitting one side and the other ones pass the other side. Imagine something, and I borrowed this picture from my master, the Pedro Calabres, which I love to see his videos, and I took this picture from the video where he's talking about the same subject. So as you can see here, these sides, these are the prisoners, okay? This will be the queue of people passing the other side of the wall. Here's the wall. These are the people passing the other side of the wall These are the instruments they are holding and the reflection of those instruments in the bottom wall of the cave. The fire would sit a little bit higher here, okay? And will be constantly on. Therefore, this for them is like a little screen, but became their reality because they couldn't look backwards and see there was life in behind. So here would be the entrance of the cave. So what happened? One day, one prisoner set free, okay? But there is a process that happened when this before he actually comes to the outside of the cave. So, as I said, I make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. So I told you we're talking about the allegory of the cave from Plato in the seventh book, the seventh dialogue in the book of the Republic. And he's trying to say that prisoner was confronted to that situation. If you free those prisoners, they will be forced to look first to the fire. The fire will cause hurt their eyes, and in each step they walk towards the end of the cave will hurt more and more and more. And I like the way that's putting here, and this is the way that my master put to explain the cave. And I really I say I want to be loyal to these words to explain this part, because I can perfectly picture in my mind how does that happen. They were looking in a dark place only for those few shapes for quite a long time. If you stay in the dark for quite a long time, when you come outside, isn't it, your eyes hurt. And it can really be hurt so much people who are found in situations, isn't it? Like in a confined space, and they have a really hard time to adapt to the daylight, to adapt to any kind of life that can really cause a horrendously pain for you go and see. So is that this process that he's described, that the first person they try to look, they look, and so then they got to see that fire. The first thing they will look at that fire, it's gonna hurt their eyes. And as it hurts, they need to make more effort to start to walk to the end, towards the day life. It's not a process of that you just running towards the life and that's it, I'm free. It doesn't happen like this. You will many times stopping during that path and look back for the darkness, and some of those will go back to the dark because exists comfort in there. Exists comfort. There is no pain, there is no hurt, and there is no fear, I would add to the story, because you know what is there. And when you walk, is at the same time that is hurting, that you having to overcome the hurt of the light. You also have to overcome the pain on your body. You have to overcome the uncomfortable situation, and you have to overcome your fear towards the unknown. That's another symbolism that we see there. So they will feel more and more uncomfortable to the light. Oh gosh. Uncomfortable to the light as they get closer and closer to the outside of the world. So the outside of the world will hurt their eyes so much that many will be forced to step backwards a bit sometime later. They will see that they will see the sun, and they will recognize how grand that is compared to the fire. That, I think, is the first discovered of the outside. So the first prisoners get there and they see that big sun, they say, wow, I thought that the fire was amazing, but this is unbelievable, isn't it? So after that hurt overcome, and then let me see if I can jump for this explanation already. So yeah, how grand it is compared to the fire. So they will try to go back inside to call their friends to tell them how the outside world was. I remember very well of this. My dear philosopher teacher, I can't remember his name, but he explained this bit. Yes, they will come, and then they got overexcited. Is a news, is a new word we were missing while we're doing that. We got to free ourselves, leave this comfort zone, because outside is freedom. While we have seen that, whoa, that's not life, that's not the truth, that's not reality. There exists a word out of there, a new word for we explore. And they will try to come back. Their first action is, rather than they explore the new, they will try to convince those people, go back inside the cave just to convince them and say, hey, let's come, let's go, we are missing, there is much more out there. And you need to come and say, what gonna happen? What happened when we get this in life? A lot of people, some people might go with you, but a lot of people will come and say, will try to look and feel that first hurt and say no. Some people will fear and be afraid to follow you and go in the outside. Some other people would join you straight away, okay? But some of the other people will even get anger about, and they will have arguments and discuss with you and say, leave me here, what are you doing? Go yourself, you stupid, something gonna happen over there, let me stay here. And some other can get to the point of anger, depending how much effort you may try to do to convince that person of that new word. They might end up killing you or being aggressive to you or anything like that. So these are all points that is, obviously, like I said, it's all symbolism. But I can picture people like that in this world. We're talking about intolerance. We are talking about people who, but let's understand, I don't want to mix too much, because otherwise you're going to say, so is intolerance, but they are trying to convince to do something, and no, it's not in that point. It's not in that point. Is what we're trying to say is we are talking about beliefs. We are talking about how hard it is for you break the walls when someone has believed that something is the reality for so long. It's very hard to break that system and to move towards a new one. Okay, at the end, that's one of the conclusions. But let's go back here in part. So some of those will laugh off them, some will doubt, and if you try to free some of them, they will look behind the scare, and as the lights make them uncomfortable, they won't want to go, and they might become aggressive and even trying to kill you for that. The shadows at the wall are common sense of everyone. The opinion and the general reality of a society is what was built. It is how we build society. Societies are always in and constantly in transformation. But their common sense, that is the reality for that. That's what Plato is trying to say. The common people passing of the other side of the wall, holding the objects, reflecting on the wall, are the influential. The people with power, all that they do are project the shadows. So they are forming opinion, is where we could make a parallel nowadays. The opinion formers in the internet. Today we talk about the internet, but just a few years ago would be totally the TV forming opinion on people. So this is the parallel, the comparison with those people passing. They are the influential. They are the individuals responsible to project what will be next, the next common sense in the society. The communications way nowadays are the main forming, the main form of opinion. The main vehicle to forming opinion, that's what I'm trying to say. So they will tell us what to do, how to behave, how to dress, how to think. They will make us believe that this is ready, this is the real world. The TV would be back, will be the back wall in the cave. The bottom of the cave is what Plato called the word of sensitivity things. The word that we believe in, the word of touch, smell, the word that we see, that we can taste at that time, we are believing that this is reality. Okay? For Plato, though, nothing is perfect. Like I don't know if I told in the introduction of this video, or if it was the one I tried to do before anyway. But what happened is, for Plato, one of the main things about his work is, for him, perfection doesn't exist in the real world. For him, perfection just exists in the ideas world. And he has a theory built on this, and he would say is like a little bit like mathematics. We know that how triangles are made, by you connect the 3 points, and but if you try to make a triangle in the real world, for more perfect you made, even if you made in the computer, will never be perfect, because it's perfect only in your ideas, only in your brain. Although, and even if you could make that triangle, wouldn't be perfect, because that triangle would exist in the reality world just for some time. Even if it's the pyramid, is deteriorate slowly, but it's deteriorate through years, which means it's not perfect, because it's not made for last in the real world. So perfection for him is something that exists in the words of the ideas. This is something really, really important in how he deals with the concepts of reality. And therefore, what is perfect? Why the words of ideas perfect? Because if we all vanish from the us, all the mathematics which were already proved in mathematics and in science, some conclusions like 2 + 2 is 4, they would still be 2 plus 2 is 4, even if the whole humanity vanished from the world. And all of the chemicals conclusions, if how can you make fire? Put this and this together, and that will make fire, and that's perfect. So that's why he's saying for him, perfection just exists in the words of the ideas. And have I said that? Let me just put one extra explanation for we understand. So as I said, in that time in Greece, Greece was a democracy, and that democracy was a little bit different, as each democracy had existed since. Each one was different. So one of the difference between the democracy in that time, and I'll go back here a little bit, it was that was one characteristic of that society. Let me try to find here so I don't make confused, because where did I put about it? It was this this point to call the man's the man didn't make sense to cultivate the body without cultivate the intellect. This was one of the main characteristics of that time. I've always missed this. So yeah, for you cultivate the body in that time, you had to cultivate the mind, which I think as we move ahead in the society, because we build and create and transformate and transmutate energy so much to build a very high-tech world, we missed this point, which is exactly a point that I think we, with this group study, we will try to rescue as well. For you cultivate the body, you got to cultivate the intellect, your intelligence, your thinking. You can just evolve if you are evolving in the way that you think as well. And I think obviously neuroscience nowadays split the things. They've got all the different name for this. But I think what he was trying to say as well is a kind of work in a holistic way, isn't it? You develop, you create, you absorb information. You become, after you filter that information, you start to use that information, you will become a more knowledgeable person. And as you become more knowledgeable, you may start to, and you free yourself, because it's not just enough of become knowledgeable, but is you put knowledge into action, into this world, in an action that gonna make you more happy, and to the point that nothing in this world would affect your inner peace. When you get there, and if you get there, and we had only few thoughts passing this word, I think that they got there, you can be called a wise man. So be wise is you get into one stage within yourself. First, you already got that connection between your body and your thoughts and your emotion, your spirit. All of that already calm down and they are working already as a holistic way. But you also got a level of knowledge that you are in a constant, in a stable state of peace, mind, and knowledge. Okay? So that's become wisely. So in that time in Greece, I think in this subject and in their own way and in their own, let's say, environment and in their own knowledge, they were at least chasing this, a connection between the body and the intellect. So yeah, you would see that that's why they were stronger. They were strong people. They were people who they did have to work their body as well. But at the same time, they would try to grow as a people, to discuss the idea, to know more about themselves. And in that way, that was the biggest entertainment in that time. So some of those will laugh if they're already right there. So the shadows at the wall are common sense for everyone, the opinion and the general reality of society. Already said, so the people passing by reflect on all the word influentials. The communications ways nowadays, they are the people who forming the opinion. So I was talking about perfection as well. Since there is a mind to think, the thought would be perfect and immortal. And that was the point. So it's not, because sometimes we say, but how perfection exists only in the ideas? Ideas are not perfect. You think about ideas are not perfect because you always think about ideas into actions that you can't realize. But what he's saying is, like I gave the example of the big formulas that we know that this plus this is the result. Then this is a big thing on philosophy and science. They work pretty much together, because even though one feels much that's much more an action and experimental, a more laboratory environment, the other one seems like existing in only in the abstract world. No, they are talking for philosophy, consider and takes the principles of science really serious and evolve with it really. Okay, so that's what he's trying. So he's trying to say that, look, as the ideas, they are immortal. They are immortal. And in the world of sensitivity, things all change all the time. Opposed to in the world of the ideas, where formulas and science is made. The journey of those who escape from the cave, is a hard journey. They have to free themselves to run after wisdom. The wisdom causes pain, causes discomfort, but once you free yourself, go back to your cave is impossible. I think from this whole study, this is one of the main ideas. So here we really got to the point. This new world, when you're there in the dark and you move to the light, Even if you were that prisoner who came back and you try to convince your friends to go and see the words, even if your friends refused and wanted to stay there, you will never be able to come back to the end of that cave, chain yourself and carry on living, not after know what's out there. And this is where knowledge switch in our brain, what happened to us. And now when I say, then when we start to study a little bit about the brain and the neuroscience and how the brain work, we're gonna learn scientifically and biologically what happened to our brain to make this impossible, because there is such a big mechanisms operating us that will cooperate for we get to this philosophical conclusion. You see, he built it up and he concluded this before we actually could prove scientifically that there are those mechanisms operating in our brain. He concludes through experience in the abstract world. And it's true. Would you be able to come back to that cave and sit down and carry on live that life? It's the same thing. You might, and there is a scientific explanation for this. And I will give one sample, and you will understand what I'm saying, but please don't take personal. For example, you might have lived your whole life having the best friend ever. You might have your best friend for more than 20 to 30 years. And that is your best friend. You might have spent Christmas together. You might have spent holidays together. You might have gone on travel together and share all your secrets and everything else. One day, if it's something that was extremely relevant to you, one day you find out that your best friend told you a lie, or had held for sometimes a lie that involved you, and that for some reasons was connected to you to any reason. It's pretty much possible that you will break up in a relationship because of that lie. That is impossible if that lie, there was something that made a huge difference within yourself, in the way that you feel. That simple attitude, one attitude, let's say in 30 years of happiness, one bad attitude, one thing that could be considered by you as a betrayed, will switch on something in your brain. Your trust, we name this in the future, but your trust mechanism was broke towards that experience, towards your friend. And trust is a very, very sensitive switch in us as a human being, because trust is in the base of the pyramid. When you start to understand about human emotions and behaves and how we build our system, because there is a whole system of trust. Trust, if you notice, the whole world, the word itself, everything exists in the world is still very, very, very much based in emotions. This world is still playing in emotions. Things are built and carry on in life with a very basic emotions, and trust is sitting in that very, very base. And that's why it's really hard to trust, to find someone to trust. And when you find it, it's like it gives you accomplish, it gives you peace, and it gives you happiness and joy, because as a human is one very, very big characteristic which define us as a human being. But it's also one of the things which define us as a human being is knowing that bad, and this is a little bit more of the study of the neuroscience now, is that one bad, we tend to, as a human being, value the bad experience. They have a space in the world which is much, much bigger than a lot of the good experience that we have. And nature explained this, and my master was explaining this to us in this neuroscience course, which with one example which is unbelievable. And he said, nature already determined, you can't change that. You think that you can control this within yourself, that you're gonna say, I can forgive you this mistake. I can depend on the mistake, you won't be. And if the mistake is connect to trust, you will probably never come back to that relationship without have 1 feet behind. With your eyes closed, you can't never be back to that relationship without that feeling that it could eventually happen again, and I can't trust again. And it's really hard for us. That's how important it is you dive into this study about know yourself, because you will, if you know yourself, and if you know how the brain operates and how our human mechanism and the things in these words affect us, you will also learn how to respect yourself, and you will learn that after some kind of experiences, you will need to, sometimes will be worth you to try to forgive and carry on, but sometimes will be a waste of time, because you will be just trying to fight something, especially if it's not a friend, but if it's someone like working for you in your business, which made such a mistake that that mistakes connect to trust. And if that mistake could be a really big mistake, but when mistakes are connected to trust, it's really, really hard for who manage that personnel to forgive without causing him to always feel different and stop put on eyes on. So many times would be more practical, right? You made this, let's change your department, let me put you here or there in another position which is not a sensitive position that will make you have this feeling. So that's what I'm saying. It's a lot about know about yourself, know about your limits, know about how the world operates and other people operate, know if you are the one who is providing a service or not, if it's the other person, and if that person should be moving here or there. To avoid ahead, you have to deal with conflicts within you, okay, towards whoever was, or that person as well, being affected, or the people in a company, if that's the case, like I mentioned. I don't know if I'm making too much sense. I'm going a little bit farther, and now we have less than 6 minutes, because I said I will talk for 1 hour, so I got to finish this in 6 minutes. So that's why I said, yeah, it's impossible. Once you walk towards knowledge, is impossible you to step backwards and go back to the dark. And that's when we start to now talk about systems of beliefs. So systems of beliefs, that person who is spent 15 years believing in what we call pseudoscience, for example. So my master liked to talk about pseudoscience, astrology, for example. The astrology doesn't have any scientific proof or base that works and as a system of a scientific system that works and operates in the way that people believe. So we call pseudo science. And when I talk about this, so say, let me go back here and read. In this allegory, we also learn that there is discomfort busway. So yeah, this is important to say. The discomfort is not only from that person who met the light, who gone towards the light, and need to come back. The person who is in the dark can need to leave to the light because the eye is gonna hurt. But the person who, if that person leave and he stayed in the light for a long time and he walks towards the dark, you also feel very discomfort because you can't see the things anymore as it was seen, as reality, and you don't know anymore that environment. So that's why it's impossible you go back into ignorance once you have, and they call knowledge as a light, because once you open your eyes for knowledge to receive that new information, it's impossible you see things the same way. Very easy. Actually, this is the best example. You know those things we see in the internet when they say find the mouse in the graphic, or images that has those shaped images that you can see, like a horse or a rabbit or wolf. Once you first look, you don't see. Once you saw, you're gonna be seeing that always. This is another proof how brains operate, and we operate in the words of the ideas of towards knowledge the same way. Once you have that new information, you can't just pretend you don't have and live in the ignorance, in the dark again. But he's saying that busways are painful. It's painful if you know that someone is occupying that position in the ignorance. It's also painful for you have to go back to that level to rescue that person and trying to show that the state where you are, the position where you are, what is the reality. Each one will have your own point to operate, and this is a very, very important and significant thing to talk about, because that's how education is important, and the way how you see education. How can you help your child, how a teacher can help the students to educate. They can't just try to swallow the new information into them and want that they absorb. The student needs to be ready. It's really more of a apprenticeship thing, a system, harder than a system. The good teacher, what he will tend to do is be there, drive the students, walk with the students. But many times that student won't be ready to see that point. You got each one. That is where comes as well our exercise of tolerance. Our resilience to understand that it's not because you've got knowledge that everyone needs to have and everyone is ready for. A lot of people are not ready for the new knowledge that you have. A lot of people are not ready to see the world as you see the world. And I tell you, when you know about this, you stop suffer. A lot of your feelings calm down. I can tell this by for myself, because I used to be a person that everything news that comes for me, I wanted to spread the word, and I think in many cases I'm still be, but sensitive informations or very rooted beliefs which I know that I may have, because I may have an open, a little bit a more open mind for certain things. I don't allow to share 100% with some other minds, because I know that they state that they still playing are in different levels of mind, as much as a lot of people who will know so much more, they think that, oh, I'm gonna just waste my time to share this information with this human being, being me, because she won't understand the idea. And it's true. Imagine someone trying to explain for me quantical physics. Honestly, I would feel totally lost about. So yeah, but this is what happened with knowledge. It's impossible both ways. It's impossible to go back to the light without hurt. It's impossible who is in the light come and rest without feel hurt or feel that they might be wasting their time in some category. In this allegory, we also learn that there is discomfort both way, and we leave the dark, and as much as when we walk towards the light. And in live life and walk back into the dark. Therefore, our journey towards life is always forwards, progressive, and confused. In the behalf of learning and becoming more knowledgeable, we will need to always destroy old concepts and build new ones. And this is true. Destroy your old beliefs in the behalf of build new one. And this is how experience change us as a person. And once you understand this, you stop to think about everything in your life, your relationship with friends, why your friendships today are different of your friendships of 10 years ago. And why your relationship, why the person that you married 10 years ago still not being the same person. But in fact, we all change, and the world is changing slowly and slowly and slowly. And it's just that because it's so slow that we tend not to look. But when you see, it needs to take many years for you see the same picture. And for you notice, oh, you're not the same person. I am not the same body, and I am not the same mind as 10 years ago. And people that lives and convives and have my company, and they are part of my life as a friend, they also change. They change that challenge, and all of this experience who plays on them and operates on them, they can be all consider progressive, because as we said, it's impossible you to go back to the dark so much of your unless you've got some other things which could affect. But I'm talking about knowledge. Okay, you don't really, once you open your eyes, that's it, you open your eyes. So as my master would say, never laugh at confused people, because they are just uncomfortable with the knowledge they still don't have, or because they still haven't adapted to a kind of knowledge that they already overcome. In both cases, we will be simply ridicularize them for something that they can't control. I already passed one now, you can see. I get frustrated, but anyway. So that's why we can't say bad about beliefs. In pseudoscience, and I already said there are many pseudoscience. I gave the example that my master gave, which is about this astrology. Those that has no evidence at all in this word, the things that there is no evidence as a system of valid thoughts. That's what he was trying to say. That astrology doesn't have a valid system of thoughts. When you criticize people, and this is how he shows you what happened when you try to impose beliefs towards people, towards some people. What happened is exactly that. Imagine that you believe astrology at the same time that I tell you, I give you this information that there is no scientific base that will allow the astrology to get on what they say that is. And if you believe, you might feel frustrated. It's like if something breaks inside you and you feel like, oh, but I have to defend that. Where are the arguments? It has to be. So that's a little bit what happened when you break other people's systems of beliefs as well. They are living their own life. They are seeing their shadows in the back of the cave, and then suddenly someone think that a new thing come and break that system, break that discipline, that routine, that belief. And it's a very hard process because, like I said, we are all progress, but the time progress that we are in is a very slow, and because it is slow and is in the everyday basis experience, any suddenly change, it can be very, very aggressive. Is what happened when we passed away. While we have a difficulties to deal with death, because it happens from the day of the night. Do you have a difficulty to deal with someone who is dying slowly by age? Normally people say, no, but she had a long life. No, but obviously you will miss, but many people, and I can tell you that I saw someone very close to me convince somebody else that they should die, because she would say they wanted to let go, and my feeling was, well, I wouldn't want to let go as well. She said I had to explain to him that that's okay, that he could go because he had a lovely life, that they needed. I mean, I'm not trying to criticize the situation, but it's a little bit this. It's easy for you as a third person to trying to judge and to tell people what to do with if it change has occur in the as the time goes harder than if it's changed. If you just had a car accident, passed away, leave that hole because you got to fulfill that present. It was suddenly, and you didn't actually, your brain missed that sense of, I need to see deteriorated in front of me. It's a little bit like an old clothes, isn't it? If you see that's old, slowly you get less wanted to use, and you one hole appear here, one hole there, and you say, I don't want to use. One day you're brave enough and you throw away. It's exactly the same, you see, how brains operate. But when it's a new clothes and you go out and you find a hole, it's frustrating, it's revolting, and it's like, just both, it's new, but use, and it gone now, it has a hole. It's a little bit the same. So that's what he is trying to say, why it's hard. So people, you are you when you criticize people, that's throwing away the opportunity when you are criticize those people who get confused, and you criticize and you think that, oh, they should adapt like that just because you have that capacity, or that because it was you for you were easy, you are throwing away the opportunity to teach them a new system or educate them in something new. So this is valid for everything, isn't it? For our kids, for example, when we criticize them straight away, or if teachers think that they should, very, very in a fast speed learning, and if they don't allow them to learn and to go in their own time, it can be, can be the beginning of a break down in that relationship, or a build of a wall, rather than help them to find fun in learn, and to thrive for knowledge. The process of leaving the darkness and walk towards life is a hard, difficult, and painful process that needs to be respected by each and all of us, because each one will make their own way. This is what we call education. So, education, there is no time. Each one has got your own time to learn. In this study, in this subject that I'm trying to say, that's how we should see when it's connected to the sense of the beliefs, which is something that is much, much more deep in us than a system of education from school, where we based in subjects and disciplines and everyday studies. I'm talking about break a system of beliefs. This is really, really a big thing. A lot of people still think that if you, I don't know if you have this here, but in Brazil would say, if you drink milk and eat mango, that will affect you in a way that your stomach will never come back to normal again. This kind of thing. And then science come and say, there is no such a thing. If you do that, you're not gonna be feeling unwell at all. What's the other thing? I'm trying to remember one from the UK that, I remember my someone in the family once say, oh, you should never swallow chewing gum because it's gonna make you're gonna glue in your digestive system, in your stomach or whatever, never gonna leave your body again, and this and that. And we know that is not what happened. Okay, it's best if you don't, but it's not what happened. There is no scientific, I hope it does just say, but that's what I'm saying. Beliefs are things that we growing, and since we growing, we feeding, and they growing with us. It's different of just things that you learn and it's easy to let go. This allegory also teaches us that teachers who try to impose their ideas, ideologies, etc., they will always fail in their mission, as I already said. But if they can comprehend the difficulties and instead try to drive us towards the light, they will succeed. Unfortunately, it's not all school that will teach us to think of ourselves or for ourselves, rather than just prepare us for exams in the world where internet has good and bad information, true and false. A critic sense of vision can make a lot of difference in our choices. As we try to become wise, you will notice that as much more we learn, less we know. And I will finish with this one. And I hope you had enjoyed. I need to start to think, where am I gonna put this video? I think I'm gonna publish it in the Instagram, and I don't know, maybe in the IGTV, and I will try to create a YouTube channel in the future, so then we can keep all together. But I had promised I had promised some of my my people, some of my clients, that if they wanted to subscribe, we could have a live conversation once, and that would be held in the Telegram after we have a few little videos. So I would very much appreciate if you wanted to subscribe. I don't know but how, but I'm gonna create this channel in the Telegram, and if you could send me the subs, if you want to subscribe, I will create this channel to the Telegram, and then it won't be today because now it's quite late. That I will always be doing the videos when I can, but probably will be nighttime. And then we can have a live meeting in the Telegram one day, and we could share information, because I am not a specialist, and I am just a student of those things. Okay, I'm studying from the real masters, for the people who is digging, for the people who are selecting information, for the people who are filtering much better. But because I am always trying to learn straight from the source, I think my risk is a little bit smaller, but I don't know everything, and might be that I'm saying rubbish sometimes. So because of this, I would like to keep this close contact, because I am absolutely sure that between some of the people that I know, there are a very nice set of people who could be helping me and helping you, and putting their own speech increment this video, because they are from science, they are from counseling, they are from psychologists. And what I would like to do is really just connect all of those people together, and we could meet from time to time and do this, having this conversation more as a conversation rather than just me to choose one topic that I think is interesting and that everyone will be interested and we could learn. But that's it for today. I don't know if you enjoy, or if you not, if you had opportunity to at least start to look into yourself, and understand a little bit, a few little, have that sparkles of what knowledge does with us, and how interesting this path towards learning can be, how fulfilled can be, how much pleasure and lightness you can feel after you fool yourself with this kind of information, because it helps you to understand yourself and understand the other people limitations, respect your limitations. We will be talking about this in the future, how important is, we putting be capable to say no in order to prioritize our own journey in this life, in order to save energy, to realize our own, to make our own priorities happening every single day, to feed our priorities, save energy, that you would be wasting doing many times silly thing for other people, to put energy in your own projects, and how we could create your projects to in agreement with our personality, which is a fantastic, like I said, this last course that I've done is unbelievable. um, in, you know, unbelievable way to learn how to work with what you have, in a way that you can potentially create more energy for put into projects that you want to achieve and that you think that you never have a time to do. Okay, so that's all for now. Just a little bit of advertise of what may come, and I will try as much as possible to do. I can't let you know when I'm next gonna publish the next video, but you are welcome to comment whatever, whenever or wherever I post it. I wish you to leave a little comment if you can. Say what I should be improved. Can be a little bit of, can be a criticizing as well, because then I know what I need to do to try to improve, because for me this is a big challenge. Okay, so see you. Thank you very much.